Hey, g'day friends. Hello, here I am. It is Matt Mantara, hanging out here in Rarotonga today, down at the northern end of Muri Beach. For those of you who know Rarotonga, we've just moved into this accommodation about an hour and a half ago or so. So here I am, a little bit late for Chat with Matt, but this is Chat with Matt. It is also the 24th of August 2021. And I'm here for half an hour or so to shoot the breeze and talk about whatever might be going on for you, or however we might be able to serve you. I have been, over the last 48 hours or so, really, hey brother Glenn, really processing my swimming with the whales experience. Have to admit it's been quite heavy going the last couple of days. Leaving Aitutaki, coming to Rarotonga, the weather's been quite oppressive here. It's been raining pretty much non-stop. It's broken now. It's looking much better now. The original accommodation we were in wasn't super ideal. So we've now moved to this spot here, which is obviously right on the lagoon with little, hey Jill, little islands just off the coast here, and the reef is just beyond those. So it's feeling a lot more conducive here to me relaxing into the environment. So yeah, we'll see. It's been, as I said, it's been a little bit heavy going, and that could be for a variety of reasons. One, moving to here and different energies. Two, all of the uncertainty around the COVID thing and whether we're going to extend our visa or whether we can extend our visa, and all all of that going on. And also just processing everything that the whale experience stirred up. So this is the interesting thing, and it's very easy to forget that when we have a high vibrational experience, that there is a form of pushback. It's not that there's it's not really a protest or the universe trying to push us back down or anything like that. It's basically energy mechanics. So when we have a high vibrational experience, our vibration elevates and it shakes loose a lot of SH1T density that we might be carrying internally, and so it comes to the surface. So you have an experience that is very exciting or high vibrational or affirming, and then it seems that everything goes backwards. It seems that everything goes wrong. It seems you feel very uncomfortable. Sometimes you feel very unworthy of the experience you've had, or your mind can go into overdrive trying to justify why you are now feeling unsettled or dense or fearful or ungrateful or unworthy or all of the above, right? mixed things. So that's what I've been sort of climbing my way through over the last couple of days. A lot of integration, a lot of processing going on around what I know was a very significant experience for me. It was definitely very high vibrational and affirming in many ways. There was a huge amount of connection and transfer of energy that happened in that experience, especially the first experience I had where I was floating basically with the two whales on my own for quite some minutes, just there in stillness. They weren't swimming anywhere. I was sort of just sculling backwards a little bit because I was very, very close to them, and they were just basically rolling over and looking at me through various eyes, obviously only one eye at a time pretty much, but yeah, quite an amazing heart open deep experience that is having ramifications on deeper levels. Hey Sister Mary. So anyway, I've got a few questions here, and I better get into them before I get too distracted, but I am very happy for questions to come from the floor as well as we progress. Anyway, Diana wrote in more about instinct versus intuition. Is instinct more primarily connected with survival and intuition from a higher power? Do you feel them in different areas of your body? Okay, yes, I do feel them in different areas of my body. I feel that instinct comes more from the gut, more from the solar plexus, more from the lower chakras, whereas intuition comes more from the heart and the third eye. Instinct is more concerned with survival generally. Our instincts cut in or cut arise when we do need to act quickly to survive, or at least to avoid a form of danger. It doesn't always need to be life-threatening, but instinctively we know generally who we can trust. Instinctively we know when there is danger. Instinctively we know where there's water, right, or what's edible and what's not. You know, there's an instinctive knowledge there, a gut instinct, a gut knowing, right? There's a huge amount of neural cells in our intestines, right? We have a huge amount of knowing and processing power actually in our gut. We also have similarly, we have a lot of neural cells, a lot of brain cells, if you like, thinking cells in our heart, right? So we've got them in our gut, we've got them in our heart, and we obviously have them in our head. We've been taught to primarily use our conscious mind, our thinking mind, and our primal reactive mind, you know, the hypothalamus and all of the amygdala and all of that reaction, because our senses are monitored here in the base of our brain, is how we monitor our sight, our hearing, our sense of touch. We bring in information that way and we react to it. So so that, you know, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's valid to identify and to honour the fact that we do have intelligence in our gut, and we do have intelligence in our heart. If instinct and intuition are working together, is that feeling of being in flow? Yes. If instinct, intuition and consciousness is working together, then definitely we're in a big time flow. We're going to talk more next month, the month of September, with this concept of coherence in the Mantara Transformation Empowerment Support Community, Jill, which you are a member of. So this is the topic that's arising. So the one thing I wanted to talk about more in Diana's question is this statement, intuition from a higher power. What higher power is there? You know, this is, hey Sister Luna, awesome that you are awake and in sync with us. You know, this idea of a higher power as something separate to you, I think is what trips a lot of people up in living an empowered and beneficial life. So relaxing out of this idea of higher power and getting intuitive guidance from something that knows more than you do is, I think, beneficial, because your intuition is flowing through from yourself, from your heart-based knowing, from your, what you might call your higher self. I don't believe it's beneficial to keep thinking of your higher self as something separate to you. Oh goodness, a whole heap of seedy things just fell out of the coconut tree I'm sitting under. I'm just looking up to see if there's any bigger nuts that are going to fall, but no, it looks like the tree has been pretty much denutted of anything significant. That would be a great video, wouldn't it? A coconut hits Matt and he's out. Wouldn't surprise me. Nothing would surprise me these days. But anyway, so your intuition, from my point of view, is more a connection with your heart-based wisdom, a deeper level of wisdom that has access to past life information, that has access to intuitive knowing, rather than some sort of external guide that is talking to you. I know a lot of people have the experience of receiving information from external guides. I don't so much. I know you might think that's interesting because I'm a channel and therefore I'm channeling through Mantara, which you guys perceive as an external guide, but my experience of it is really me just sitting here as I am now, speaking without thinking, accessing my intuitive knowing, and being willing to have the courage to say what I don't know. Right? I'm not speaking from what I intellectually know, I'm speaking from what I feel to say, which is what I know. I'm not hearing guides telling me, and it doesn't feel like I'm possessed and some other higher power is speaking through me. My experience of channeling is not like that. My experience of channeling is basically me accessing the aspects of myself that have been otherwise, I've been otherwise educated out of trusting. I basically speak without thinking. That's what I do. Jill wrote, it induces giddiness when in the flow. Giddiness. Giddiness is an interesting concept. Is that like dizziness, or is that a connected, grounded feeling, or is that a disconnected, floaty feeling? What is giddiness? I could describe, maybe potentially, it's an excitement that is beyond yourself. Actually, you just wrote something and I almost missed it. On the odd occasions I felt in the flow, it was almost like being high and euphoric. Couldn't sustain it for long. Maybe that'll come. Yeah, and I agree. I have those high euphoric moments as well. And channeling light language definitely helps me access that high euphoric feeling. But ultimately, I don't hold that as the only time I'm in flow. I consider myself in flow right now, although it may not be the highest form of flow I can ascertain. I think the more that we choose to believe that we're in flow, the more that we're in flow. And for me, that's about letting go of the idea that in flow has to be a peak experience. I'd encourage you all to let go of this idea that it should be more. I think potentially what holds us out of a lot of empowerment and a lot of our own personal power is this idea that the experience that we're having is not enough. The experience we're having in meditation is not enough. It's not the peak experience that we could have, should have in meditation, and therefore we sort of feel a little bit dissatisfied with the meditative experience we do have, which then lowers our vibration and thus limits the experience that we can have moving forward with meditation. We want more, and yet in that wanting of more and in that expecting that we should have more, we limit our capacity to have more. The more that you can be satisfied with the current experience you're having, whether it's this in-flow experience or whether it's a meditative experience or whether it's a connection with a person experience, the more that you can trust the experience that you're having is adequate and is good, then the more that you'll progress. Everyone's connected to themselves, Mary. So Mary wrote, that's why I trust you. You are connected to you. Everyone's connected to themselves. I've just chosen to be a little bit more visible in that connection, that's all. So good, Jill wrote. Thank you, very good observation. So allow yourself to trust that you're in flow a lot of the time. All of you, you're in flow a lot of the time. And is there more flow available? Yes, of course. Even in that giddy experience, that's not the highest form of flow that you're capable of, right? So it's an infinite spectrum that we're all existing on. But the more that we can appreciate the experience we're having, the more that experience will grow, right? Because what we appreciate, we'll appreciate. That's exactly how I would like to channel too. That's exactly how you do channel, Luna. So you are channeling, you do channel, right? So it's not that you would like to channel, it's that you do channel, right? This is what I'm talking about. You are all channels. You all have moments where you express from your heart without overly thinking what you're saying. You channel. Maybe you want to write, that's how I'd like to honour the fact that I channel, or appreciate the channel. Had some experiences with that, of course. I paid a lot of money for that, put me off though. Now I'm confused and not feeling confident at all with it. I'm not quite sure what you mean. You paid a lot of money with courses. I paid a lot of money. Just trust that you channel naturally. All of you channel naturally. When you just choose, it's just about intention. It's just about holding your intention to bring through, to serve people, to bring through information that serves others. A lot of people think, oh, Matt, you should know how to live your life. You can just ask Mantara and they'll tell you. It's not like that. It's just not like that. When someone asks me a question, I answer. That's how I work. if I just want to know something, it's not so easy. So the roosters are green. So the point is, my friends, is not to get caught up in wanting yourself to flow more or thinking that you should flow more. I'm aware that I need to answer some more questions here. So hopefully that's helped with intuition and instinct and this process of higher power and this process of channeling and the process of accessing your heart-based wisdom. Mary said, there are those that say they are channeling others. That's a big red flag for me. Yeah, it doesn't need to be a red flag. Some of them are bringing through information that is very beneficial. And yes, there are people who want to, quote unquote, hide behind or gain status from, make what they're saying more important based on the idea it's coming from a certain authority in the spiritual world. There's no greater authority than your own heart. There really isn't. There is no hierarchy here. While other beings who have walked this planet previously, or other beings who are known in the galaxy or the cosmos, Ashtar Command or whatever, right? They're all real things, and people do channel them, but they have no greater wisdom than you have in your own heart. That's the point. They might have some information that you don't have, and that's valid to take that information on, but what you have to share from your heart is just as valid. And so when you choose to channel, e.g. speak from your heart, then and when you choose to do it with an intention to be beneficial, to be helpful, then it is. So just trust that. Just trust that, and don't diminish your own status based on other people being more experienced or more better or more valid than you. Jill wrote, when I've been creating flower essences and the poetry around them, I've felt its channeling. I've found myself invisible to people around me at those times, which is a bizarre sensation. Yeah, you know, when our vibration raises, then people of a lower vibration tend not to notice us. You know, it's not that I don't believe we're completely invisible to them. It's just that we're not relevant to them in that moment because we're vibrating in a way that is hard for them to comprehend, hard for them to hold, hard for them to make sense of. And so they tend to ignore us, right? You know, this is very, very normal. You know, a lot of spirits who are still walking this planet as an energy field on this planet have the same experience, right? Most people don't see them because most people don't recognize on that vibration. And so it's not that our eyes can't, our eyes can and our eyes do. It's just that the brain chooses not to show us that information, right? There's this understanding in science that we are recording probably 10 times more information visually than we're being presented with because we just haven't been educated into thinking there's a relevance to that information that's in other spectrums. So I've just got to go back to what Luna was talking about, a whole self, because I'm not sure how that fits in. That's exactly how I'd like channel 2. Okay, just to clarify, I mean from my whole self. Yep. It's another interesting concept, you know, this concept of whole self. It's like the concept of higher power. What is your whole self? What? Everything? God, source, universe? Because that, to me, is your whole self. Or are you meaning a subset of that whole self that you want to call your whole self? Right. There's so many divisions and individuations and concentric circles of what we call self, that we like this idea of whole self, but really is there a completion to whole self due to the fact that we are, as self, continually expanding? Can we even grasp our whole self in any particular moment? In the moment that we've grasped it, we've actually expanded out of it. So I get what you mean, but just understand that we will never be our whole self because we're always expanding and growing. And so it's okay to be a part of yourself. It's okay. It's not a wrongness. I don't channel my whole self because my whole self is so expansive that I can't contain that, and I certainly can't transmit it through this human self. So the more that I can accept that I'm only transmitting a part of what I currently know, the more comfortable I am with that, and knowing that my capacity will improve over time to both hold more of myself and to transmit more of myself. Both of those are evolving and growing. So let go of the idea of there's some sort of completion, that you need to have reached a certain stage before you can start channeling, or before what you channel is valid. You don't need to channel your whole self for it to be valid, nor do you need to access your whole self before you are valid. Allow yourself to be valid exactly as you currently are. So yeah, awesome. I'm going to move on to this next question, which was from Sister Joe. Hiya Matt, please could I ask how would I go about tackling the fear of driving, actually fear of having a car accident and being killed? When I was very young, so there's a bit of information here which I won't read through all of it. Anyway, successive experiences of people being hurt or killed in car accidents. So at the end, she writes down, do you have any advice? I have had hypnotherapy for driving, but I'm still just scared. Maybe it's actually a fear of death. Thank you. So I think that's, Joe, that it is a fear of death, and that you've equated driving as something that is potentially dangerous and something that you've had experience with people dying from before, and therefore, driving doesn't feel safe to you, and therefore instigates this fear. Luna wrote in, I just mean rather than guidance or other beings, but what you say is totally true about me. Yeah, because other beings are really just part of our whole self. Mantara is just an aspect of me. So is Master Jesus. And not that puts down Master Jesus, because I'm a part of him as well. We're all part of the same. So any guide is a part of you, and you are a part of them. So we can see it all as the whole self. And the less that we dissociate ourselves, the better off we are. And of course, there has to be a level of dissociation and sense of separateness, otherwise we wouldn't be able to interrelate, and that is the reason why we, as God Source Universe, chose to divide ourselves up in the first place into these delusory separations, these individuations, to have the experience of relating to each other, so that we can get to know ourselves better. At the same time, it's not inappropriate to have an understanding that this separateness that we feel is an illusion, and at the same time honour that illusion is a valid illusion that is helping us and not a wrongness. It's not an illusion that we have to get rid of, but it's valid to remember that it is only an illusion, that we are separate, and that any other aspect, any other being, any other separation, any other thing is really just a part of you. All that's really important is that you help yourself relax into a state of beingness. Anyway, so to answer Joe's question, how do we overcome these fears that limit us and our ability to operate in this world? Whether it be a fear of heights that prevents you from climbing a ladder to change a light bulb, or whether it be a fear of driving because we worried about having an accident that will hurt us or kill us, or whether it be a fear of sharks that stops us swimming in the ocean, or any of these fears, right? We know from a logical point of view that the chances of dying are varied for any particular experience. There is a chance that you slip off the ladder and hit your head when you're changing a light bulb, and so there is a reason why you might want to stay firmly on the ground. There is a chance that a shark will get you when you're swimming in the ocean, be it very minimal. There is a chance that driving a car is in some ways a dangerous activity, but is it any more dangerous than walking on the sidewalk? How many people are killed as pedestrians versus how many people are killed as drivers or passengers in a motor vehicle, right? There's all of these statistics that we could look up, right? are more people killed in car accidents than are killed via cancer that is caused by the stress of worrying about dying, or heart disease. There's plenty of potential. One thing for sure is we're all going to die. And being scared of death is very limiting to our ability to live an expansive life, right? To really enjoy our life. We have to be willing to tackle this fear of dying and to move beyond it. And at the same time, making yourself stupid or feeling less than about yourself because you're scared of anything in particular, whether it be scared of sharks, heights, snakes, spiders, cars, being in a car, driving, etc. All of these fears are basically just remnants of a past that you've experienced, and making yourself wrong for feeling that fear is not going to help you overcome it. You must be willing to accept that you have the fear, and that you have the fear for a reason, even if the reason isn't particularly logically valid in today's world, right? Many of us have been programmed to understand that your fear of death is not necessarily because you've had bad experiences in dying, although you may have, but a lot of it has been programmed in. It's been a big agenda on this planet to make us scared of dying, so that we comply with the directives to how we can stay alive, right? Because if we have no fear of death, then we're much harder to control and to abuse, right? To milk, basically. We've been milked by various dark beings on this planet for a long time. Our energy has been used to further their objectives. We've been controlled and we've been kept in fear, so that this fear energy actually feeds these dark beings. So being scared of something that inevitably is going to happen is a great way of producing more fear on the planet for these dark beings to enjoy. They enjoy the vibration. Hello, hopefully I'm back. Just had a little drop out. I was just basically saying these dark beings are not wrong for doing what they do, to invoke fear, because they feed on fear. That is their role. Just like sharks are not wrong for eating the odd human. That's their role in the ocean, is to clean up stuff that's not supposed to be there. They're basically the garbage collectors of the ocean. So the point being is we don't make them wrong for having to do this. I'm not trying to instigate anger that we've been manipulated in such a way to fear death, but we have to understand that it's been done for a reason, and that we don't need to comply. We don't need to comply with maintaining this fear of death. We've got the fear of death, some of us, because we've been educated into fearing death, but it's time for us to release that fear. And the way to do so is to relax and to allow your heart to basically provide you with the wisdom that you are not going to disappear when you die, that nothing bad's going to happen to you when you die. Yes, you may feel some discomfort, there may be some degree of pain of separating from people who you love in the physical. When we witness other people die, we feel that same pain and grief and loss. Death is not a particularly enjoyable experience for those who are left behind. And so many of us are equating the experience of death based on the experience of witnessing others die. Those who have had near-death experiences come back to tell us that it was actually a very beautiful experience. And many of us are looking forward to that experience as well. But nonetheless, there are instigating factors that have us all feeling a little bit uncertain, right? There's this fear of change, fear of an unknown, that it's very hard for the majority of us to actually know what it's like to die. You can do meditative experiences where you induce the experience of death, because we have the memory in our heart of what it's like to die, because we've died so many times in many different forms. And so it's all there for us if we choose to access it. And many of the Buddhist techniques, specifically the Tibetan Buddhist techniques, utilize this to help them overcome the fear of death. They go into meditative states with an intent to experience a death before death, right? They invoke the experience of death. They imagine that they're dying, they're imagining that they're having to say goodbye to their relatives and that others are crying around them, and that they're feeling this degree of separation. They're allowing their regrets to arise, what they didn't achieve in this lifetime, and all of the rest of it, so they can process this before they actually have the dying experience. Because in processing it before and coming to peace with the experience of death then allows you to live a much more empowered lifestyle, because you've already faced the fear of death and overcome it. So now that you're no longer scared of death, you can actually live more full on, which doesn't necessarily mean taking massive risks. It doesn't mean, going skydiving and swimming with the fucking sharks or whatever, but it just means letting go of the fear that, something might go wrong and I might die, so that you are actually more connected to your instinct and your intuition, because you've got less fear in your field that clouds all of those things, and you can actually make good decisions. Sister Stacy said, I'm not afraid of leaving this body, maybe of the how, don't like pain, I'm more afraid of leaving kids. Yeah, so many of us fear this idea that we won't have completed our mission, right? We won't have completed our desires, and many of us have made very strong commitments, love-based commitments, to support our children as much as possible and see them thrive and move ahead in their life. And if we were to die, then we'd be leaving them on their own before we have accomplished that. And that's very hard. It is very hard. One of the things I noticed just recently, because my youngest just turned 18, was this idea was wow, that is actually quite a burden that's just lifted off my shoulders that I wasn't really aware I was carrying. And even though I feel that I still have quite a strong obligation to keep guiding my two boys much further in their life, and I do look forward to it, at least I've succeeded to get them to, legal adulthood without leaving them or overly effing up. So I actually did find quite a freedom in that experience of realizing I have no legal dependence now in my children, that they are men, and they have to take on a bit more responsibility in their life, and so that has relieved me of some of that, which is a good thing, because it actually, in relieving me of that obligation, it actually frees me up to be actually more present for them, not from a space of obligation, but from a space of more expansive love, right? Not feeling that I have to, that I have a duty to. Now I'm choosing to be guiding for them, and choosing to help them, not because I have to, but because I want to or I desire to. So hopefully this is helping, Joe, understanding why you might be fearing death and allowing you to relax out of it by relaxing into acceptance of it, accepting that you fear death, and then choosing to step beyond that fear, so that fear isn't overly controlling you. I've just realized I've gone on much longer than I potentially should have intended to, but I do want to just quickly read this last question, which was from Sister Julie, I just had a flash that these chats of Matt, chat with Matt, being like the book of the prophet of Gibran, right? Kahil. Anyway, I'm not going to get too caught up in that. Could you please speak with us about navigating emotional curveball or waves that make us focus on work and overviews difficult and or the relationship of strong emotional waves with physical responses, and otherwise navigating work resistance and or about letting go of difficult but long-lasting relationships that are no longer serving any of it, though it's not urgent? Is there any, if there's already lots of other questions? Okay, so I'll speak to this quickly and maybe we can loop back around to it next week, Julie. But could you please speak of us navigating emotional curveballs or waves that make us focus on work? So the process of navigating these strong emotions that arise and strong impulses to focus on things like they're very important, right? We get this idea that it's very important, is to relax, right? Is to relax out of stress. Everything comes back to, first principles, which is relax out of stress so that you can find awareness, find acceptance and allowance, and then move into your intentional outcome that you desire, right? And allow yourself to be guided into moving through that. So first and foremost, it's to be aware that you are experiencing an emotional curveball and that you are getting stressed in that influence by emotionally what's arisen, or mentally what's arisen, in terms of having to, focus on work or some problem in life, some challenge that is now taking a section of our energy and creating concern and stress around how we're going to solve this problem, and then employing a lot of mental activity to try and do so, which generally creates a contraction, which then disconnects us from our intuitive and instinctual knowing, which then makes it harder to achieve the outcome that we desire. Doing your practice, it all comes back to having good practices habitually, right? Which is, when you feel yourself get stressed, then stop and relax. Choose not to allow yourself to proceed into the mentalization of the situation from a space of stress, because you will only inflame it. If you keep working with the emotional curveball from a stressed state, you will entrench it. So when we feel our emotions arising, when we feel our mentality swinging out of control with anxiety or stress or fear, there's to stop and take some deep breaths and come back into our heart and come back to this authentic, positive perspective of life, that life is happening for us, and this situation that's just arisen, all these emotions that have just come up, are coming up for a good reason. This is not something that's happening that's wrong. Yes, it may be a challenge, and yes, we may have to take action to overcome it. It's not that we should just allow it to be the way that it be, based on that this is good. I'm not saying that it's good, but there's a benefit in there. So the more that you can relax into that, the better off you will be. Anyway, my friends, I need to push on with life. I've got a few things to sort out here in terms of getting an extension to our entry permit sorted this morning, so that it can be processed and give us some options. We're still not even sure that we are going to stay, but one of the ways is to see what options are available to you, and sometimes you have to step through some hoops to open up those pathways. So taking action, stepping through the hoops, so that we have the ability to make choices as situations evolve. That's what we are currently doing. Having to walk our talk, basically. I'm glad you enjoyed the background here. I'm actually on this quite a big deck that they've just built out over the thing, and our bungalows are just here. There's some other bungalows back here. There's a man working in a bungalow and all the rest of it. There's Maria over there. There's some kayaks under this deck. We'll take for a paddle later on. We've got lots of good things planned. Jill said, if I have a conversation nowadays that delves into miserable things in today's world, I do my best to end on a positive, used my other finger for Seymour, on a positive note. It helps keep me sane, I think. Yeah, exactly. So, and it's not wrong to talk about the potential negatives that are going down, but at the same time, it's to remember not to get caught up in the doom and the gloom of all of that. Anyway, friends, I will move on. Much, much love to you all. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to reach out either via this group, via Messenger, or via email. I'm here to serve you all as best that I can, and look forward to catching up with you again soon. Potentially next chat with Matt, I may be back in New Zealand, or I may still be here. Not 100% sure. Anyway, bye for now.